Good evening. My name's Sage. Welcome to my workshop, Self-Care During the Pandemic. I know it seems kind of odd. It's like, what does self-care have to do with transformation or metamorphosis, as is the theme of our retreat this year? But as you all know, transformation isn't always a positive thing. Sometimes we have negative transformations. And we also know positive transformations don't come without work or routine maintenance, like trying to go on a trip with your car. You want to keep it maintained. You want to keep the tires good. You want to make sure you keep up with oil changes, make sure your light bulbs are good and everything before you go, because you may not be able to make that long haul if you haven't done your maintenance. Something goes wrong, and then it either stops your journey short. You got to stop and fix the problem, or your car just may not make it at all, and you're hoofing it. So we'll go ahead and dig into the ins and outs of self care and some of the applications and how they have kind of changed during the pandemic and why they're even more so important than ever. So, what is self care? Here I pulled up a couple of definitions here. We got one that says the individual's responsibility of health management without a medical professional. I mean, that's, I guess, a very literal way of putting it. Of course, that's Wikipedia, everyone putting their 2 cents in. I like this next one. Pretty much anything you do to take care of yourself so you can stay physically, mentally, and emotionally well. That one I think is a little bit more concise and accurate. That comes from everydayhealth.com. I'm going to cite my sources on some of these things, so if you want to check it out on your own accord, please do. Um, so, next question is, why do we need self-care? Well, it helps us manage, stress, grief, combat and navigate or prevent depression, anxiety, uh, PTSD. It's pretty important to have a self-care regimen while navigating some of these issues. At least its symptoms and whatnot. They don't go away overnight, and they don't go away entirely altogether. You got to keep at it. In addition, it can help boost self confidence, self esteem, maintain good physical health. Uh, can also keep you better maintained to be able to recover from injuries, heal, uh, keep your immune system boosted up, avoid getting sick. Because if you're under a lot of stress, the body breaks down. It takes on different physical ailments in response to it, like irritable bowel syndrome. It's very unpleasant, but it's one of the most common ones. Let's see what else we got. Um, Also, it helps us maintain our relationships with family members, friends, significant others. Our professional relationships keeps our keeps our jobs there. If we let those connections deteriorate, we could very well see a drop in our work ethic, our connections with liaisons or business contacts, and end up seeing ourselves losing out on opportunities. So we will move forward and ask, what are examples of self-care? I'm pretty sure a lot of things come to mind. Imagine, if this was live, everyone would have their hands up with, different things they can throw in, like exercise and dieting and meditation and whatnot. And we'll get into those. Those definitely go to specific types of self-care. Now, believe it or not, there are 8 different types of self-care. 8. Most, I at first I thought it was just like, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, but there's actually 8. Um, and we'll get into those. But the 8 types of self-care fall under physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, professional, social, environmental, that's unique, and financial, which really would get overlooked but makes a lot of sense. Um, but self-care and its techniques and applications is pretty versatile. Um, some are short-term implements of self-care, like you just you're out running errands and then you just decide, you know what, screw it, I'm going to stop and I'm going to get some frozen yogurt, just take my mind off of things for a moment. That's like a short-term one. That's like instant, like an instance, uh, a method of opportunity. um, like get a craving, you go to McDonald's, get your Big Mac and fries, which I wouldn't recommend doing a whole lot. But some other methods are like long term, such as like having routine visits to the dentist. That's something that's going to be ongoing. Um, Having regular sessions with like a therapist or a counselor, that's a ongoing one. And usually these long term methods, go for long ongoing goals and long term benefits, versus the short term implementations of self care. Uh, Kind of like just kind of take care of a need just right then and there, just to kind of like have that instant, just like moment of relaxation or peace. So we'll arc back around to that maybe towards the end of short term and long term. But I'd like to dig a little bit more into the different types of self care and ways that we can address each one. So we have physical self care, kind of like the first one that comes to mind. Your health involves your physical well being and your needs, such as diet, rest, um, not just sleep, but actual like rest, relaxation, physical relaxation. But it also can include some things you didn't expect, like affection, physical touch from another human being. Some would even go as far as to say, taking care of your sexual needs. That does fall into taking care of physical release and whatnot, but not 100% necessary. Everyone, has their own situation, their own boat, and those needs to be addressed responsibly. Um, yeah, be safe, people. But some examples of physical self-care: eat healthy foods. Be mindful of what you put in the body. Whatever you put in the body, you're gonna get out of it, as far as how you feel, how well you perform, how energetic, lively you feel, so on and so forth. You'll get the full rundown from a nutritionist or any personal trainer or Instagram physical health influencer. But it is important. Having a good diet definitely will have an impact on how you feel and your overall mood. You eat garbage, you're going to feel like garbage. Exercise definitely is very important for physical self-care. You know, if you work a sedentary type job, you're behind a desk for about 8-10 hours a day. You come home, you're tired, you don't get to move around, and you get into that habit. Well, you're gonna feel run down too, because you're not moving, you're not stimulating your body, you're not, you know, moving everything along, not getting the blood flowing, and of course that leads to a whole multitude of other physical health problems. Now, here's one we all overlook: staying hydrated. That's something we oftentimes overlook, especially we work inside or we just have a sedentary lifestyle. We don't we don't think to stay hydrated, but drinking plenty of water has a huge impact too. You feel better. You're cycling everything through, getting the toxins out. Pretty self-explanatory. Getting plenty of rest. That is key. A lot of us don't get enough sleep, especially during the pandemic. We have anxiety, um, dealing with depression, new things that we're dealing with that we never dealt with before because we're all cooped up and distant from one another. Sleep can be hard to get, but that is key. Um, It can make or break your day. All right, let's move on to the next one. Psychological self-care. You got to take care of the mind. It is very important. You know, keep your mind sharp, keep your mind in a good place. It's kind of where the mind goes, the body follows. So, psychological self care can include learning, creativity, deep thinking, foresight, mindfulness, and motivation. You know, you gotta stimulate the brain. You know, uh, during a pandemic, many of us are learning new hobbies, learning new things, watching documentaries, reading books, learning a new skill, which actually kind of falls into some of the self care methods in here. Of course, practicing mindfulness, really having empathy, really maybe going out of your way to help someone out or wish them a nice day, spreading positivity. That has an impact. It stacks up. Reading, reading's good. I mean, I consider it an exercise in the mind. You're trying to hold the picture in your mind as you're reading it, and of course, it ties in with learning new things. Which goes into the next one, a good segue to study or teach a subject or skill. Maybe you don't feel like learning, or you just or you want to share. That is an excellent way to practice good psychological self-care because you're sharing your skills, your knowledge with someone else, but also you're rehashing it in your mind. You're in essence teaching yourself it all over again while teaching another, and you're sharing and building a good social connection with someone else, building that bond. So that's kind of like, going into another form of self care, which is social self care. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Write or keep a journal. That's excellent on several fronts. Good for psychological self care, emotional self care too, or even spiritual self care. But, writing down things that are bothering you, things that make you happy. But it's good to see it on paper. If you're not able to talk to someone, have a sounding board, put it on paper, you're still in a way kind of purging, these thoughts out. So we're going to move along to the next one. Emotional self-care, highly important. I mean, it branches into psychological self-care and physical self-care. Or at least your physical health and mental health, psychological health. But emotional self-care involves, boosting emotional awareness, EQ, communication, processing and understanding emotions as well, improving empathy, stress management, compassion for others and for the self. You got to be nice to yourself too, and and give yourself a break. We're all hard on ourselves. Examples of emotional self-care. We're going to go ahead and start with be nice to yourself. We all make mistakes. And with this isolation and whatnot, we all have a habit of, dwelling on things that, we did wrong or things we could have done better, missed opportunities. We can't beat ourselves up over it. But a lot of us, we like to brew on it and think of what if. That's really a good first place to start. Forgive yourself. Give yourself a pass. Be like, hey, whatever. We make mistakes. We learn, we move on. Try again next time. Setting and enforcing personal boundaries. This is important. A lot of people, they just kind of avoid conflict with, friends, family members, and whatnot, and don't respect their personal boundaries because they want to keep the peace. That could be more detrimental than the confrontation that you would have with them itself. Be true to yourself. Set those boundaries. You don't have to say yes to everything. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. Or you don't agree with something, don't go along with it. At the end of the day, you won't feel like you compromised, and you'll feel better that you stayed true to the person you see in the mirror. Take time for reflection. Now, I did mention earlier about not beating yourself up, reflecting over stuff that you could have done better or whatnot. But it is good to reflect over things. Maybe things that you thought, it was okay, but I think I could have done better. Like, you had like a business meeting and, you were trying to present some ideas, but you didn't quite articulate it the way you wanted to and you felt a little self-conscious about it. It's okay to reflect on it and come up with some better ideas. Or maybe, you were trying to talk to someone new, develop a friendship and break the ice, but you kind of, tripped over your own words and stuff, and you're thinking of better ways of maybe starting new conversation next time. That's good. But also, it's also good to reflect upon maybe happy stuff and stuff, just like, things you could have done better, reflect on things you enjoyed, like a trip you went on or an adventure you had, you went camping and went on a nice hike, reflect upon that, you know, maybe scheme on going revisiting that adventure in person instead of just inside the noggin. Now, I did say respect your boundaries. Set and respect your boundaries. I'm going to kind of go back over it from a different angle. Saying no to unwanted opportunities. A lot of us don't say no. We are in the business of yes. In most cases, that's good, but you got to learn to be able to say no too. Saying yes all the time, you put yourself in so many obligations. You may have more than what you can deal with, and then you end up stressing yourself out, which is counterproductive. Here's another good one. Listing things to be grateful for. Counting your blessings. Great for uplifting yourself emotionally. You're having a bad day, you wake up, you're feeling good, or you're just having like a down moment. Sit down, think about things to be grateful for, like having a roof over your head, food in the fridge, um, having a job, being alive. That's a big one in my book. Be breathing, be able to communicate with other people, not being a vegetable. Really, there's so much to be grateful. We all have so much good in our lives. We often overlook it because they're mainstays. But if we actually sat down and look at all the things that we have going on that allow us to be able to continue on as life as it is, we'd come to find that we have a ton to be grateful for every day. And if you make it a habit of every day listing these things to be grateful for, you'd be surprised how much your overall standard mood changes and in your outlook of life in general. But you gotta implement that practice. That would be one of those long-term implementations of self-care. Something you want to do regularly. All right, let's move on to the next. Using my cheat sheet here. All right. Professional self-care. That's kind of a new concept even to me. At least being worded like that, putting it into a language. So, professional self-care, sharing your talents and skills, having professional goals and firm boundaries in the workplace. That's pretty important. If you don't feel like you're valued, if you don't feel like you're valued at your workplace, that's going to take its toll on you. But if you're not pushing yourself to be able to do more, to demonstrate your skills, they may not at the workplace have a notion to place more value or expectation into you in that regard. But also having goals. Where do you want to go where you're at? Do you want to stay with this company? Do you want to break into a new industry? What does it take to get there? These are questions that would go along with how would you go with implementing the self-care in the professional arena. And also setting your boundaries, when you're in the workplace. So we'll go ahead and get into some examples here. Knowing your job and its responsibilities. If you get a new job, or even if you've been in a job with a company for a while, you may not be clear on what are the actual expectations for your position, and you may come to find that you have been doing more than what you're supposed to be actually doing in that position, which would put you in a position that you can say, hey, no, this is not my responsibility. If that's what you want me to do, let's discuss the next step up. requesting feedback and performance reviews. If you don't know how you're doing, or what you can do better, um, seek out your supervisor or manager. Ask about, hey, how I'm doing. What can I do better? Getting constructive or positive feedback is very, very helpful. For me, it's very motivational in the workplace. Um, Knowing that, first off, getting positive feedback is always good. We all like to have a pat on the back. But getting constructive feedback is just as good because you understand that if they can provide constructive feedback, that they're actually paying attention to what you're doing. They care. They value you enough to actually have that feedback. And it gives you direction on how you can grow. Negotiate your compensation and benefits. As I said, you know your responsibilities and they're asking you to do more, you might have to sit down at the table and be like, hey, look, we need to discuss my pay. I think I need to be, you know, compensated a little bit more to, match the responsibilities placed upon me. And of course, making sure you're getting the benefits that you deserve, getting your health care, 401k so far, which would make you feel further validated in your job and within the company you're working for. All right, have firm boundaries. That's kind of a tricky one because, certain those boundaries could get you fired or written up. But, I will say, for example, at one point in time, I had a firm boundary at a place I worked at. They had seafood and they had live lobsters, and people would order lobsters, and you had to steam the lobster for them. And for a while, I had that firm boundary that I just would not kill this animal for someone else that was not willing to kill the animal themselves to eat. I felt as if it was dishonoring the spirit of this animal that you weren't even willing to take its life yourself. But firm boundaries could be religious or spiritual boundaries, and they're asking you to do things that you feel like are morally wrong. Keep those boundaries. Losing your job sounds pretty scary, but losing your identity or your self-respect is even worse. Take your breaks. This is self-care for sure. Taking time out, to sit down, unwind a little bit from the stress of the workday. Don't skip your breaks. If you get a 30-minute lunch, take your 30-minute lunch. You get an hour, take your hour. They cannot take that from you. That is an OSHA violation, and you need that for you. Here's an important one. I really believe in this one. Don't give up any of your personal time. Work your shift. Don't give them extra time. Because that's your personal time. That's your life. That's your life outside of work. You're giving up extra for them. And 9 times out of 10, every company you work for, you're just a cog in a machine. You're just another number. If you were to keel over dead, they probably have your job posted within the same day and have another body fill your position within the week. Don't kill yourself. Value your time. Look for ways to train up to the next position. That goes into wanting to feel valued and move forward and kind of have a little bit of pride in what you do. Expanding your skill set and trying to show that you're ready for the next position up definitely builds self-confidence, self-esteem, self-image, but also preps you that for the next position up in that company. If it doesn't work out there, you're got some bullet points you can put on the resume, like, yeah, I know how to do this, this, and this. I just didn't get the actual title yet. I'm ready to take on that job. All right, we're going to move on to the next one, social self-care. This is a pretty tricky one considering, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We have restrictions, capacity limits. I mean, look at us, we're doing an online retreat. We can't catch up in person like we normally do every year. So social self-care involves having a network of supportive friends and acquaintances, liaisons, of which you can trust and turn to for help. Having a sense of belonging and inclusiveness. It's hard to really fight off, feeling lonely, isolated, depression and whatnot, when you're not able to connect with another human being and share your thoughts and feelings. It's important for us to socialize. We're social animals. So let's see. We got some examples here. Get involved in community group. Hey, here we are. You got Brotherhood by the Bog, TSC, um, all sorts of other pagan groups, and beyond pagan and spiritual groups on Facebook. But yeah, get involved in community group. Make good on commitments to other people. You tell someone you're going to do something, honor your word. Do the thing. You build a good bond of trust with you and that other person. If you put things out there and you're not able to do it, or you consistently not do it, I should say, without communication, you start having a breakdown in these social bonds with other people. Ask for help when needed. This is an important one. Ask for help. If you're not doing good, reach out. It's okay to ask for help. I mean, you hear it so often. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to just let it go and let it just keep building up on its own. Talk to someone. It's okay to ask for help, be it financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. Speak up. All right, spend time with friends and family. Again, very difficult during the pandemic. We're isolated, self-quarantine, all this going on, social distancing. But spend some time. If you got to do FaceTime, do it that way. Call someone on the phone. That's still spending time. Or, of course, having small family gatherings. All right. Here's an important one. You got to respect yourself. Don't spend time with people that make you feel bad, or you get, they're negative, constantly negative, and drag the whole vibe down. If you don't feel good talking to someone, or every time you hang around someone, you end up just feeling kind of down and depressed and whatnot, you don't have to give them your time or energy. Respect that. That's your personal energy, your personal resources. I mean, we all know people that, they're good people, but they just kind of like, they're always in a bad spot. They may actually need help, and by all means be there for them. But you got to draw a boundary there somewhere. Then, of course, people that are just hostile and negative and just really unpleasant to be around all the time, yeah, of course, don't give them your energy. Let them go do bad on their own. All right, we're going to move on to another one, which is a unique one. Environmental self-care. Environmental, we're thinking, the actual environment, globally all around us. But it also can include personal environments, which we don't really think about. Or at least we don't really take into account when it comes to self-care. So that involves, kind of like having clean and organized workspaces. You go to work, everything's cluttered, you're not going to be a good headspace. You're going to be disorganized all over the place. You're not going to feel good. You're going to have a hard time navigating. You're going to get aggravated. Having clean living space. You come home, you feel good. Everything it's in its place. And here's another one with environmental self-care. Having clean clothes. I don't know about you, but if I put on some dirty clothes, I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to have, overall, it's going to bug me. It's going to be eating my head. And your vehicle, your means of transportation, you want to keep it tidy in there. That's kind of like an extension of your home, extension of yourself too. All right, so some examples of environmental self-care. Clean your home and your workspace. You don't want to have clutter everywhere. Try and keep it clean. Also, having a clean living space promotes good physical health, which ties into physical self-care. Recycle. Why not? Let's recycle while we're cleaning up. Let's recycle. We feel good. It kind of uplifts us. Hey, we're doing something good. We're doing something positive. And we're getting stuff out of our space that we don't need. Donate unused items. Again, same premise. We're getting the clutter out, but also you're paying it forward. You're donating something that might be useful to someone else. And also, I don't know about you, but I feel bad about throwing out old clothes. Like, I don't like it. It gives me at least a little bit of solace in knowing that when I'm donating clothes, that although I am not wearing them anymore, I won't see them again, they will still have purpose with somebody else. Clean up after yourself after every meal. That's pretty important. You sit down, you eat. Oftentimes, I'm guilty of this all the time. I'll just leave my cup sitting somewhere, or I might forget about my plate and look back like, a day later and like, oh crap. But no, immediately, if you clean up, where you're eating, your eating space may be like the dining table, you know, in the living room or in, wherever. Just get out of the way, get plates to the kitchen and whatnot. It's not out across this house starting to cause clutter. And of course, other problems, pests and whatnot, self explanatory. We don't want to get into that. All right. Maintain your clothes. Keep up with the laundry. We're all guilty of this. Let laundry build up, and then we're like down to our last like pair of jeans and last t-shirt, and then we're scrambling to get laundry done. Or if we do laundry, we dry it, and then we put it back in the hamper, and we let it sit for like a week before we decide to fold it up. But we just keep looking at it, and it causes stress. Like, oh crap, I need to take care of that. Just get it knocked out. Get out of the way. You feel accomplished. You did something, and you got clean clothes. Repurposed unused spaces in your home. This is pretty important. I think every one of us probably has at least one spot in our house, apartment, or wherever that it just collects clutter. It sits there. We don't actually use it. We don't do anything with it. It's kind of like an empty space that's not empty, but it's just a negative void that we don't do anything with. But if you take that space and basically upcycle it, get all the clutter out of it, make it have a new purpose, all of a sudden it's just will feel like our living space has expanded. We have more breathing room, so to speak. Everything has its purpose. All right, let's move on to the next one. Spiritual self-care involves maintaining beliefs, values, and morals that are important, and they shape and guide your life in your day-to-day activities. I mean, that's part of why we're here. Spiritual self-care, to connect, to share, but also to kind of stay in stride with things that we believe in. Meditate. That can go for so many of these on this list. Meditation, mental, emotional, physical, care, health. Attend a church or a place of worship, or even a community hub. Just go somewhere with people with like values and beliefs. That kind of helps boosts. It's kind of boosts and uplift those. Sorry, getting a little tongue tied here. Haven't spoke for a long time in one sitting in a long time. Join or volunteer with a local group. Here we are. But doing community work and community service definitely helps boost the spirit, the mind, self-esteem. You feel good at the end of the day. There's always people in need of help. Always several different needs. It's not just helping people. Volunteer for animal shelter. That in itself, I mean, you're helping out beings that don't really have the means to actually speak to us, but are grateful for the help. Definitely good for the soul. Read and study spiritual and philosophical texts. Sometimes we need a little bit of guidance spiritually and whatnot, or maybe to reinforcement of our beliefs, or we want to be able to deeper understand our beliefs and morals and values, and maybe be able to explain them better. What perfect way to do that than to read and study a little bit more that from different perspectives on the same subject. Go on a retreat. Again, here we are. Not quite within the same context as you would think with a retreat, but kind of go on a group outing, a vacation or a weekend getaway with, people of like minds and values where you can share and bond and kind of get away from, the rest of the populace that, wants to enforce their own little beliefs and whatnot. All right, we're going to move on to the last of the 8 here, financial self-care. Um, as is with anything, we require food to function. Vehicles require gas, fuel to move. Unfortunately, within our economy, we require money to be able to function and operate. We need to be able to pay rent, got to pay bills, be able to save money to achieve goals, go have fun. So we need to maintain our financial health. That involves being fiscally responsible, improving financial health, um, and also learning to be responsible in our expenditures. Some examples I can share with you: being aware of your expenses and avoiding unnecessary spending. This is, pretty good. Everyone should do this, be it for the self-care application or just being prepared for what life may throw at you in the future. Look through your bank statements, see what you've been spending money on, and kind of get a grasp of where your money's going, where it's coming, and where it's going. If you see you're going out fast food, 4 or 5 days a week, maybe you see it as an opportunity. Like, well, maybe I'll bring a bag lunch for work instead of going out to eat all the time. Save money that way. Of course, avoid the impulse buys. Go through Amazon. We're all guilty of it. Go to Amazon, eBay, we buy. We see something that looks neat. It's like maybe instead of having that impulse to buy it, we sit on it for a little while and like, well, let me look at it tomorrow and see if I'm still interested. Paying bills on time. That's a no-brainer. If you pay your bills on time, they're not sitting over your head. You're not thinking about it. You're not going, oh, did I pay that? Or, oh, man, oh, crap, there's a late fee. Staying up with them on time, developing good habit and a good rhythm, will help keep your mind stress-free, keep you in a better spot. So not only are you being fiscally responsible, you're preserving your mental well-being. Look for ways to pay off debt and increase income. You've got that, got credit cards, pay off the lowest balance. You get that off your plate. That's money back in your pocket every month. That's one less payment. Um, Credit cards, loans, things that, you just have a very long commitment to, try and find ways to pay them off quicker. That's a way of giving yourself a raise. Increasing income. Maybe taking up an odd job, working Uber, doing Grubhub, DoorDash, odd jobs. That's always good. Find ways to put extra money back in your pocket. Have a savings plan. That's another way to maintain financial health and execute good financial self-care. If you have a way to save money and you see, that opportunity or can come up with an opportunity over time, seeing that money stacking up is actually a good motivator, and it puts you in a better mindset. You're not stressing as much of what if this happens or what if that happens because you're building up that nest egg. But I'm pretty sure for majority of you guys watching this is all common sense type stuff. But we don't realize these are actual methods of self-care, things that we can do to keep ourselves, maintained and healthy on several different fronts. Oh, now, as I said, during the pandemic, it's made things a little bit more difficult. As I said, with us being isolated, self-quarantining, got to do the constant social distancing, we kind of go into a backslide. We get bummed out. We just stay at home. We eat junk food. We watch TV all the time. We don't exercise. We just start getting depressed, out of shape, unfocused, unmotivated. And these are transformations that we want to avoid. So it is intrinsic to us to implement these methods of self-care to, of course, offset the negative transformations, but also develop better habits, good habits that will maybe in time invoke positive transformations, such as being in better physical health. If we maintain a good diet and good, steady exercise, we get in better shape, we feel better, and it'll tie into our mental well-being, and better self-esteem. But that could be hard, as I said, during a pandemic with social distancing and things being shut down and whatnot. Fortunately, during this time, we're in a phase where things are opening back up. But we can always find other ways to work out if we don't want to go to a gym, be worried about getting sick. You can always do home workouts. It's hard to get motivated at home, I know that, but do some home workouts, jog around the neighborhood, go visit a local park. I know around here in Hampton Roads, you got the Botanical Gardens, Mount Trashmore, North Landing State Park. Like, there's plenty of places to go to get a good run or jog in. Also, it's hard to get the social self-care and interact with other people during the pandemic. But as I said, we can utilize FaceTime, use technology to our advantage, use Zoom along with that. Several forms of messenger that we can do video chats, which is excellent. So we can stay in touch, but also be safe and responsible. But keep in mind, with these self-care methods, consistency is key. We got to stay on it. We got to be mindful. And staying on top of trying to maintain these 8 different fronts of self-care actually helps us achieve, balance in our life. At least a good general overall balance that we're keeping track of our physical well-being, our emotional well-being, financial, environmental, social. Oh, which ones am I missing now? How many we go through? Professional. And these aspects of self-care that I've covered, the 8 of them, I got the information from Voya.com. They seem to be pretty in-depth with it. In fact, you'll probably find a lot of it verbatim. I'm not going to lie, I did a little cheating here. But they were the most comprehensive source for self-care venues and applications. So I recommend checking them out. But as I said, guys, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Check out Brotherhood by the Bog, TSC, Tidewater Spirit Coalition. There's many other local pagan groups and men's groups on Facebook and social media. But, if you don't always have to be part of a group, reach out to a family member, a friend. Or even just, put the word out at work and like, hey, I need to seek a counselor. Most companies provide counselors for mental health, especially during the pandemic. They will pay for that. You can always check into that too. So I think my time is about up here, guys. But if you have any questions or you wish to discuss it further, feel free to reach out to me directly on Facebook. Just look up Sage Haver, or find me on the TSC, the Tidewater Spirit Coalition Men's Group. I think the address for that is facebook.com/TSCMG or something to that effect. Sorry, my brain's getting a little scrambled trying to remember all the acronyms and URLs and whatnot. But I hope you guys enjoy the weekend and the other workshops to come. We have some pretty good presenters. I'm not going to say pretty good. They're great. Got some excellent presenters lined up in entertainment. So I hope you guys enjoy everything we put together. It's impromptu, in my opinion, like really just trying to do something new. So we'll see how it goes, and please feel free to let us know how we did. And I hope y'all have a great evening.